Alright, and welcome to Mission 2, where we're going to talk about the physical, geographical makeup of North America. We're going to talk about all its regions, and it's actually one of the most diverse continents out there. I mean, we have Arctic tundra in the north, all the way up to the Arctic Circle, and you can trace down through the grasslands, across beautiful mountains, and all the way down to the white sand beaches of the Gulf of Mexico. So this continent really has it all. We're going to go through the entire, what is Chapter 3, we're going to go through it all at once. Alright, our essential question is, what are the physical geographic features of North America? Alright, first let's talk about the countries that actually reside on the continent. First, Canada, as you see there, is the world's second largest country as far as land area. The United States is close to that, has almost as much land area as Canada. Whereas Canada is very culturally influenced by France, the U.S. is more influenced by Britain, obviously, because we were colonized by Britain. But don't forget about Mexico and the Caribbean islands, and some of the countries that we consider Latin America. That is also technically a part of the North American continent. One, kind of forgotten piece of the North American continent would be Greenland, which is off the coast of Canada in the Atlantic Ocean. So there's quite a bit of pieces that people don't consider part of the North American continent, but they are. Greenland is one of those you don't typically think of. Alright, there are two types of changes that have happened in our geography. One would be the sudden change that we've talked about. Those are really due to major events, volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, things of that nature. What has been more prevalent, especially since the colonization of America, has been the slow changes due to glaciers and erosion. Can you think of one, before I get into this, one particular time where erosion has been particularly effective at shaping our continent? That would be the Grand Canyon. So definitely think of that when we do the test, and you see a question regarding the Grand Canyon. It is the erosion of the Colorado River that has created the Grand Canyon. In addition, think about landforms such as valleys, rivers, valleys, lakes, things of that nature. One slow change that happened was the glacier movement during the Ice Age. It really carved a lot of our landscape here. So just remember, glaciers are responsible for some of the hills and valleys and things of that nature. Alright, middle latitudes. Middle latitudes. They're home to most of U.S. and Canada. That includes the area between the Arctic Circle and the Tropic of Cancer. Now, the great thing about this is it causes us to have really a temperate climate, meaning a very mild climate compared with other parts of the world. We have abundant vegetation, and therefore we have abundant wildlife. Also, this temperate climate creates very fertile farmland, and that farmland in turn feeds a lot of the population. One great thing about the North American continent, we're almost completely surrounded by water, so we are considered an isolated continent, as opposed to like maybe Europe, who is sandwiched right up against Asia. We have vast oceans on either side. This has been a hindrance to humanity. It's been kind of a barrier to settlers. It's been tough for us to get over here to begin with. In fact, it took an ice age for us to be able to cross the Bering Strait into into North America, our ancestors. But this ocean barrier enabled unique plants and animals to thrive because migration of animals was not affected. Let's say animals from Europe or plants from Europe did not necessarily make it over here, not until the settlers brought it over here. Plants like the giant sequoia, certain type of cactus, the bald eagle is a native of America. But a unique aspect is as a nation, this isolation has protected us from invasion by enemies. All right, so how did we get here? Well, the settlers arrived in North America. They brought new plants and actually new animals. And today, advanced technologies link America to the entire world. Satellites, internet, and modern transportation. Just know that most scientists theorize that humans first arrived on this continent between 12 and 30,000 years ago. Now, that's a large, time frame there. And that's because there is some disagreement as to when the first immigrants or first migrants out of what would be Siberia, far east Asian continent, when they actually crossed the Bering Strait into America. We talked about the bones with human teeth markings that they found up in the Pacific Northwest and near Alaska. That dates to about 30,000 years ago. So that kind of shattered the previous notion of 12 to 20. Let's talk about several geographic regions of the United States and Canada. The Atlantic coastal plain, that's really kind of where we're at. Appalachian mountain range, and you don't need to know all these. The central lowlands west of the Appalachian Mountains. The Great Plains, that's where a lot of agriculture. The Rocky Mountains and coastal ranges, and the intermountain range between the Rockies and the western coastal mountains. And finally, the Canadian Shield. Can't forget that. All right, and what is a river system? A river system is a land's major network of rivers and tributaries. Know that we have our three longest rivers are the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Mackenzie River, which is in Canada. And all rivers, of course, empty into bays, oceans, gulfs, lakes, or into other rivers. All right, let's briefly talk about the rich diversity of climate and resources. Know that weather is the state of an atmosphere at a given time or in a given place. That'll include things like temperature, wind, precipitation. As we said in class, precipitation is all forms of moisture, rain, snow, etc. Now the climate, when we say the climate, that is the weather over a long period of time. That defines a climate of a particular area. And the climate determines what type of vegetation will grow in a region. Okay, there are 5 vegetation zones. The polar zone, or the tundra, which is pretty much frozen except for the summer. Forest zones, which cover most of the U.S. and Canada. Temperatures can vary pretty wildly from mild to cold. There's rainforests that are found along the Pacific coast. Heavy vegetation and lots of rain in these areas. Grasslands, which is pretty much the center of North America, home to agriculture and cattle ranching. And we actually have desert in the American Southwest, so plants must survive harsh conditions and high temperatures. We have an abundant diversity as far as land and natural resources go. Dense forest for lumber, But really think about the fossil fuel deposits, the oil and coal. We actually do have a lot of that on this continent. And really abundant water supply. We have rich soil, and the rivers have offered traditionally transportation, food, power, and recreation, which is why most settlers tended to follow river areas. It's probably what happened in Eufaula. And that's the end of the lesson. Stay tuned for when we actually get into the development of the United States. Thanks.